Wow. So look at all the play in the water pump here. I could hear a howling sound. I thought there was something in the drivetrain. Eventually I noticed the engine was a bit hot. It seems like I would have noticed a coolant leak, like out of the water pump leak hole. The engine is hot and it sounds like the water pump is going out. Changing a water pump on an old LandCruiser or any other old inline six is very straightforward and easy. There it is, the coolant drip. It looks like the coolant's been leaking for quite a while. So look at all the play in the water pump here. That's a lot of movement there. It shouldn't move around like that. Weird.
That was easy.
Kind of looks like it's been leaking for a while. I'll talk about this aluminum spacer when putting this all back together. Yeah, look at that. It moves around. Huh. Still pumping. I'm cleaning up this old water pump, but I'll be installing a new one. You can replace just the bearing on these pumps. I'll show some differences between water pumps on Toyota LandCruiser 1F, 1.5F, 2F, and 3F engines. I want to see the failure. Look at that, it's a cast metal prop, not plastic. You can see the play the bearing has on the water prop. I wish I had a real thread chaser. easy. This thread cutting die is cleaning up the threads pretty well, but it's still not a real thread chaser. I'm placing this unknown aluminum spacer between the pulley and the fan. The smog pump is also a belt tensioner, so even though it's deveined, I can't get rid of it. I forgot that I have this coolant fill tool, which actually works good. I'm applying phosphoric acid to this rusty battery tray. Yeah, remember when I told you to, to remind yourself that this is the fun part?
Yeah. Wow.
What about it?
With the knobs on it?
Yeah.
Would that be a bad part? Oh, look at this.
You didn't know that you bought this parts truck, but I guess you did. This is a 1.5F engine that I've got on a FJ40. This water pump, you can see that it's drives the fan directly. It doesn't have that fluid coupler like with this one. If I can turn the fan, I can turn the engine over. And the distance from the block to the fan is shorter. It has I think a shorter, the shaft that goes through the bearing. Here's the old 2F water pump. You can see that the flange for the fan, you know, it's out further. I believe the bolt pattern is the same. So about like that. No, I don't know. This 2F pump has the oil cooler connection where this 1.5F engine doesn't have the oil cooler. Nice and simple. Got your thermostat and your radiator connection. No, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, then it tees off down here. It tees off down here and then goes to the heater core in the cab. Here I have another 2F engine. This one doesn't have the water pump on it. I could probably hold my old water pump up to the block here, go about like that. This 2F also has the oil cooler. There's the connection there. There's the oil cooler. Here's a 3F engine, electronic fuel injected. And I was wondering if I can see the water pump. Oh, it's hard to see it down there. It appears to be different. There's a coolant connection on the driver's side. And then on the passenger side, you've got the line that goes, there's a line that goes to the heater core up on top. And then there's the fan with the coupler. Dual pulley. Back behind the oil filter there is a oil cooler, but I believe this water pump housing is slightly different. Okay, well, it's too cold. I almost forgot about this 1F engine. This is out of an FJ40, probably from the late 60s. So it's older than that 1.5, or I call it a 1.5. The 1.5 I think is from 75 or 76. You can see the 2F water pump, still fairly similar. The 1F doesn't have the oil cooler. The oiling's a lot different on this engine. The bolt pattern to the block looks to be the same again. The bolt pattern of the flange for the fan, that's different. The 2F, you know, the bolt spacing is further apart. Also the flange on the 2F pump doesn't stick out as far. It's kind of hard to see it on the camera, but the 1F, the flange is farther from the block. Interesting though, not a whole lot of changes. The hose from the water pump to the thermostat It just barely fits, just long enough. And then these two hoses down here, the radiator hose and the oil cooler, it's a real tight fit. Seems like it should be modified. You know, something to be a little more out of the way of the radiator hose. This metal spacer, it might have been aluminum. It was in between the pump flange and the pulley, causing the pulley to be further out from the engine block. But I think that was in there because at one time there was what might have been an aftermarket air conditioning system, air conditioning compressor installed. It had an aluminum bracket that held both the compressor pump, which was right about here, and then the alternator was down below. But that bracket broke, so I just removed all the air conditioning. I kind of wonder, still, it's not even the same belt, so I'm not really sure, or I don't think it was the same belt because I did change my belt routing when I removed that. So I don't know what that was all about, because if I look at the belt from the crankshaft to the water pump, that looks pretty well lined up. Same as water pump to smog pump, it looks pretty well lined up. You know, a better test is you run it through the full RPM range, and if there's something wrong, you'll know. The belt will start to go crazy. So I put that metal spacer between the fan and the pulley, although I probably should have just removed it. The studs that go through the fan, through the pulley to the water pump flange or seat, they call it in the manual, those studs were just barely long enough. So without that spacer, those studs would have had a good amount of thread to work with. So I don't know, I'm going to try it this way for a while. I did run it up to about 2600 RPM and it seemed fine. That looks pretty well lined up. I noticed that the radiator hose at one time had those constant pressure clamps. You can see the imprint there. I do like those better, but I didn't have any that fit. I got these small ones. So I guess, you know, had been on there for some years, is these pipe clamps. This one here is stripped out. I don't really trust them that much. You know, you over tighten it and then they go bad. And then they don't give you a constant pressure. You know, this hose, this original one, I wonder if it's from 1983. Look how thick it is. You know, compare that to, you know, the new radiator hose. You know, that new hose appears to be so much thinner. If you do have the right tool, you've got the right tool, you know, do it in an angle. They're pretty nice to use. If you don't have this tool, what I used to use is you get like alignment pliers. You know, they got that really wide mouth, so they can grab this pretty well. I'll do it with one hand. Sometimes it wants to pop out of this tool. There's also these. I've never used these on radiator hose before. And there's also this tool, you know, the one with the long cable. Put it in there, squeeze the lever. I don't like that tool much though. It seems like it almost never works. It's so hard to get this in where you need it. The remote handle is nice, you know, it's very similar to this, but this works better.